Hello, everybody. I would also like to welcome, before we get started, I'd like to welcome to the panel Jacob Ironside for the
Hello.
first time tonight. So, tonight we're going to be talking about the 1995 Oklahoma bombings perpetrated by Irish enthusiast Timothy McVeigh, or should I say explosive enthusiast. So, before we really get going, this Timothy McVeigh really led in from Waco. A little bit of backstory onto Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh himself was born. Let me just scroll up. He was born in 1968 in New York, because of course he was, and he was a soldier and former security guard. He then when he actually went to Waco itself during the whole Waco siege debacle. Oh, we have. Hey, Phil. Good to see you, man. He so he went to see it, and he got a bit radicalized because he believed that the government was trying to steal things, influence everything. But Teague, you were mentioning, how did this stem from Waco?
There was a causal event somewhat further in the past called Ruby Ridge.
Which is for next week, guys.
But what happened was the continuing feeling of antagonism between the people of some states and some parts of the different. It was very regionalized within the country. Had like resentment against certain government agencies. And in America, you're right to have a gun. It's pretty absolute. But in the case of Ruby Ridge, they're like people were playing with the edge of the definition of what it meant to legally have a gun, which is something David Koresh did as well.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation was hardly at their finest at that point.
It was, I believe, it was the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are the ones who started that one off too. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Well, the thing is, do we second guess a person? I guess it's for the Ruby Ridge discussion. Today's for Waco. We'll probably have a hard time getting a whole hour into it. But the causal event was a controversial incident called Ruby Ridge that we're going to be talking about in the future. But I would just say, to sum that one up, the amount of controversy would be this. The President of the United States publicly quit the National Rifle Association over the National Rifle Association's categorization of events. And there was a lot of antagonism between people's perception of the federal government and what the federal government was able to do. And alcohol, tobacco, and firearms is no longer that big of an agency. It got too many black eyes too fast. And that might be too diverse of a bunch of things to go after.
Interesting fact about Timothy, and which goes to show how the characters can fall. Timothy McVeigh fought in the Persian Gulf War and won 7 medals.
But that makes sense. He would get 1 for occupation of Desert Storm, of Desert Shield rather, 1 for Desert Storm. He might have gotten the combat infantryman badge. Did he have combat? Because if you're in a war, you're going to get about 4 or 5 medals in this country. But I do think he rose to the rank of like corporal, right?
Sergeant.
He was a sergeant, right?
Field promotion.
He kind of wanted to be career military.
Yeah.
And he seems to have waxed poetic about his military career.
He was also fuck it, I don't care. I'm a channel that's too small to matter. He was also after getting reprimanded from his higher up soldiers. Sorry, not soldiers, officers. Yeah. For purchasing, as they put it, intolerant material. And then it went full on white supremacist.
This guy was a 20th century dude. It's not like he had a computer that someone could have hacked and faked. He was going around the country expressing these things. He gets caught on video at Waco, which is, I mean, most Americans didn't have a great deal of sympathy for David Koresh, although I would say enough people did have an issue with the government moving in to tell anyone what to do. That's just a feature of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
so
one of
I
the
think it was
things that
there
I
more
have
out
to
of
point
anger
out,
at the government.
look at this card. That's not the card of the same person.
I
No,
think
he's
he's changing at this point.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
considering
yeah.
that one of those had a Soviet hammer and sickle and a swastika on the same piece of paper.
Yeah, they hated each other.
I think what he was probably doing.
Hold on, you were saying, Bubba?
But nobody ever accused him of being sane.
Yeah,
Maybe
true.
not at that point.
I don't know if he was insane, but his political views or whatever you want, his radical beliefs that probably exceeded what we would call politics in this country. He didn't have political beliefs. He had radical ideas. He was probably equating our own federal. Yeah, I was going to say he's probably using those symbols just to evoke an emotion, to upset people. And that's why our media, which is as flawed as could be, landed over there to interview him. They're like, check out crazy hammer and sickle, yacht sticker guy. And he was just like, provided them a pretty kooky interview too.
Now, Farv, you were a tank driver.
Yeah.
Now, how long did it take you to learn how to fire it with accuracy?
I was trained
on the reason for this.
I was trained on the cannon and the loading, but I was the driver for the most part. Yeah. But you do all that training in about, depending on how long this make your AIT, I'd say it averages a few weeks.
3 hours.
Well, I'm talking about the full training. If you're talking the full training, it's about 2 to 3 weeks for the whole AIT shebang, and then probably you do sims for refamiliarization once a year.
So I'm running an economy and attacking my enemies in like 90 minutes in Age of Empires. How hard could a tank be? Come on. Fucking tractor.
So he turned around and he was really, really evident to Flights of Fancy.
I'm kidding.
It's all right.
In a 60 minutes final interview before his execution, which for some reason that's the fucking thing that they did. He said, and Farv, you're going to laugh at this and tell me how possible it is. Okay? He hit an Iraqi tank more than 500 yards away. Possible? On his first day.
It is entirely possible, but I will note that he did not make clear what the circumstances of him hitting it was. If it was damaged, standing still, trying to aim at them and not moving, because depending on what the kind of tank they have, they might have to slow down to aim. That kind of there's 100 variables to any of this.
Yeah.
Let's remember this is Desert Storm. For all we know, he could have hit it with the tank's missile. Each tank has one tank killer missile on it. He might have locked on with that, and that thing was just going to get it no matter what.
Well, here's the thing. It also depends on if he was an M1A1 or an M1A2. The A2 has assisted targeting.
At that point, did we have that?
I'm trying to remember. I know they were being fielded, but I don't know if they'd been fielded overseas yet. I can't.
The thing is, we had the glass telescopic type optics that were capable of that. Desert Storm was like a massive American military operation. I believe we had something like 300,000 guys.
Yeah, there was. Hold on. What was that tank you said?
It's an M1A2 if it had the targeting assist.
Yes, it was an A2.
Okay, then he had a target assist on it. Unless it was damaged, which they didn't obviously to leave those damaged.
Yeah.
Also, we had like a generation better worth of tanks than the Iraqis.
Well, most of the Iraqis were using old Russian tanks.
Yeah, pumped up Cold War. Well, it was still the Cold War. Let's call them like early post World War II tanks, not much later.
They were Soviet. They were Soviet era tanks.
They were, but they weren't like the newest Soviet era tanks. Like he wasn't. He spent a lot of his country's money on weapons, but he had a lot of oil.
On the average, the Iraqis were fielding everything from the T-62 to the T-80, and the T-80 was the latest mass production Russian tank at the time. that had ever gone anywhere outside of Russia because they weren't done with production on anything else. And they'd been fielding the T-80 for a few years by then.
I would imagine the so-called Republican Guard would be the ones who had those.
Probably.
Yeah, but, he was the top scoring gunner during this is like some of the stuff he was actually accredited with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was the top scoring gunner with a 25 mm cannon on the Bradley fighting vehicles.
Oh, he was in a Bradley.
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, the 25 millimeter, yeah. Although, depending on what kind of tank he hit, I don't know how the hell he killed it with a 25 millimeter.
No,
I guess it depends on where he hit it.
He said he hit. That's all he said.
Oh, he said he hit. Okay, he didn't say he killed it. I got you. All right.
Yeah, that was
okay,
before his execution.
That follows.
Yeah. And he then he said he claims he also decapitated an Iraqi soldier with a cannon from 1,100 yards away.
That seems a little more dubious because you hit him with a cannon shell, he ain't decapitating. He's gonna be a burst of red.
Yeah, because I've seen like those bullets in like the war museums up in Dublin and things like that.
If he hit him with a 25 millimeter round, the fuck his head, the torso's gonna be shredded.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, he'd just be a splat.
Yeah, as I said, he's like
so that's some for real, exaggeration there. I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, there's a list of medals.
Can I just call that a non-transferable skill though? Like you're either going to be in the military with that ability or not. I mean, maybe he should have held out till the age of YouTube. He would have been an amazing gamer.
Possibly. So these are the medals he won. He won the Bronze Star Medal, the National Defense Services Medal, the South Asia Services Medal, the Army Services Ribbon, and the Kuwait Liberation Medal.
Okay, Kuwait Liberation Medal would have been standard for the operation he was in.
Right.
The Armed Forces Medal, most of us got that if we were over there at any one of those times. And the other one is part of like both. See, the thing is, two of those are part of just him being a participant in that campaign.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was kind of saying before. When Americans throw a war, we like to strike a lot of medals for it. You'll get one from the country you occupy as well.
Now the star is a different matter. That you had to do something to get that.
But is that a unit citation Bronze Star, or is that a
Bronze Star is an Army citation? Like you,
right? But I'm saying, did his unit get the Bronze Star?
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
That's
a good question. You know? If the whole unit got it, then he would have got it by default.
Right, which just means he was in a tough unit.
Yeah.
After his military career, the people who knew him, including girlfriends, friends, and everyone like that, said he was obsessed with guns. His original girlfriend had thought that it was originally PTSD, but it turns out.
To be fair, I'm just gonna throw this out just as a generalization. To be fair, that part is not that uncommon.
No,
to be obsessed with guns,
especially after you get out of the service.
I think the idea is that he was obsessed with guns by an American standard.
That might be valid, depending.
He was obsessed with guns by the standards of Americans who don't think sitting on your back porch plinking is all that crazy.
Because when I got back from Iraq, I never went anywhere again without something on my hip.
Yeah, but Jacob, you were saying?
I like guns, and it didn't make you a crazy person. I mean,
but there were
a lot of Americans that like
guns.
Yeah, but guns.
This is going into some of the stuff.
I think what we're trying to say is it was too much of a good thing is still a bad thing. Like McVeigh, he didn't enjoy his Second Amendment right. He was an obsessive person on it, and I mean, you can look where. Yeah, go ahead.
He wrote letters talking about like how the taxes are a joke and all this stuff. And one of his girlfriends did testify that his paper that he was writing on smelled of gunpowder.
That's interesting. I mean, I would say, obsessed with like guns in like a kooky way is the way to put it. Like it's like one, he didn't have a gun hobby, he had a gun obsession. Right.
Yeah.
Right there. So he was I mean, my father was a police officer. He carried a gun. You know what I mean? I don't find these things all that unusual. And Americans have a certain attitude towards guns that people don't have. But in the 1990s, the way that he was thinking, it was atypical for its time. It would have been a standout position. And let's face it, he wasn't a very patriotic person at the end of the day.
No. He had a very obsessive personality. Like, if he liked something, he would get obsessed with it. In one sitting of crafts, he ran up a debt losing streak in 1990 of $1,088.
Doing what? Craps?
Yeah, I think so.
Jesus.
Yeah, he lost a lot.
Ouch.
Yeah. But the thing is, for the 90s, that was a lot of money, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In 1990, I don't know, we could use the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculator, but I would say, it was probably it could be 2 months rent for a McVeigh type.
Yeah, I think about halfway through that, you should have stepped away from the fucking dice.
Yeah, he used to go from dead.
We don't know. I'm so sorry. We don't know how fast it escalated. Right?
That is true. Also, yeah.
No, it was one sitting. He lost it.
What?
Yeah. But we don't, what I said.
How long was he sitting there? I guess.
Did he throw dice for 17 hours, or did he throw dice for 20 minutes and get a hunt?
Yeah. He was talking later on after he had taken up, and he then immediately claimed that he had overpaid the government, right? He had underpaid the government in taxes, the exact same amount that he had lost on gambling, which tells you where the money came from.
Oh,
shit. He lost out while he was serving in the army, and then he had to pay back out of it, where it was taken out of it, as he said, my meager military pay.
Dude,
by the way,
you got your wages garnished, dude. Come on.
Yeah,
you're not going to be asked to re-enlist if you did that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh no, this was while he was in there.
Oh no, he's just saying that would get you hard to re-enlist.
Timothy McVeigh made sergeant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Timothy McVeigh was showing that he could be one of the things he obsessed on was having his uniform be perfect and being an exemplary soldier and shooting things. He had OCD about shooting things too, or at least had a certain talent. And if he had stayed in the military, perhaps a different path. But what he does here is he gets into debt. And then I guess the next thing he's going to do is he's not going to cut back on his lifestyle. He's going to get in trouble with parasitical credit cards and other things, because by the time he pulls this operation, it's a shoestring operation monetarily.
Yeah.
So after that, when he was getting out of the service, he got in for trouble with his hires because he wrote a letter to the government, screaming at them and said, "Go ahead, take everything I own, take my dignity. It feels good as you grow fat and riches at my expense, sucking my tax dollars and my property." He had also gone in, as well as Waco, he'd also gone really in with the Arizona Front. Do any of you know what that is?
It'd probably be better if you explained, though.
So Arizona with Frontier. So the definition of this is it was basically a clans group. They used to also ship drugs and everything like that. McVeigh had experimented with cannabis and meth. You fucking think? He served as.
You better smoke more of that weed.
I know. He had also gone with his Oklahoma accomplice, Michael Frontier, in Arizona, where he served as his best man.
Now, by the way, this group he's part of, they take their whole definition of how that they should exist and organize from the one long sentence that makes the American Second Amendment. So if anyone's unfamiliar, it just says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. So, like, if you're like taking it way too far, not joining a shooting club, not going recreationally shooting, you might join a self well, the thing is, they don't define well-regulated, and this was in the United States. The idea that we would have state militias goes away before World War I with the creation of the National Guard.
Yeah,
but they never go back and change the language because this is This is the Bill of Rights. This is what we have to use to sell our Constitution. People aren't crazy about the Constitution. They had to have this as well.
So he had determined. Like, he was considering buying property close to the nuclear silos because he was determined on showing Arizona how vulnerable they are and that they should be nuclear free. This guy is unhinged, and how the hell has he not been arrested?
It sounds to me like what happened was, honestly, he fell. I believe part of this. I know in the Marine Corps the code is that you don't lie, cheat, compromise, or do drugs, right? So if you do any of those things, you won't be allowed back. And the Army has a very similar code. Like soldiers, are as good as their word or whatever it might be.
Yeah, what's the code?
I don't remember all of it, but they called it the Army values, basically. And it was something they actually taught you in basic. I've been out since 2006, so I don't remember.
You don't cheat on your wife with your buddy's wife.
Yeah, adultery is actually some shit that will get you booted straight
cheating
away.
On your wife, I don't know if it would anymore, but like now, like something like we had one general who was cheating on his wife with a reporter, and like it would have compromised his security credentials at the time. And when it came out, it was quite embarrassing to him.
Yep.
Yeah, like he then after the whole Waco siege. But T, do you want to talk about why he was doing at Waco?
He was at Waco, and let's remember. Again, about his feelings with guns. No one here who either owns a gun or doesn't feels any way about a gun, either having more or less guns or no guns, would ever put those two symbols on a piece of paper to prove any point.
No.
So,
in fact, they're not a good argument in general.
They're actually at odds with each other, and it's just very hateful and eye-catching. I think he was there empathizing with the fact that the people in the building couldn't have machine guns and do exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
He had become a constitutional literalist, and he might not have been competent in his reading of it because I think he believed certain things that were only in there because there's allowances made for the fact we had large tribes of Native Americans. There's allowances made for the fact that we have, unfortunately, what they call our peculiar institution. I think the word is a bad word on YouTube. We all know what I mean. The American Civil War was over it. Okay, yeah. I don't have to say it. But there's also one of the problems that was unique to the writing of the Constitution is none of these guys were born in the United States who wrote it because there was no United States. They started it. So some of the wording is deliberately vague. And he may have been caught up in the vagaries of it and not competent enough to assess the age of the document, the passage of time, what it meant. And he was just being like a constitutional literalist and sort of looking at it with a biblical passion.
So
he was there empathizing with their right to sort of be their own militia, is my impression. And that's how he comes off, because he doesn't sound very hinged in the interview, and maybe we'll want to throw the link in the description of this afterwards so people can see that.
Militia is made up of citizens.
Yeah,
it's
you still have the right to organize. I don't think that every single militia group is not on the government watch list. So this one was.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Jacob?
They were.
Well, I believe that every American citizen is a militia because
they call it the citizenry militia.
The militia was formed when there were need for it, like an attack or something. So
it works out great in the World War of 1812. It honestly worked great in the War of 1812. We don't really have much of an army, But the thing is, the United States didn't have much in the way of money, and all it had was just boundless resources and potential. And then we have, a country that maybe a lot of people here are familiar with. It's called England. Come back and attack us for no real reason because they're kidnapping our people at sea, and we had enough, and we started fighting back. And that war, if it wasn't for a militia, we would have lost that and the American Revolution. And the American Revolution, the doctrine that saved that war, that kept us from losing, was if you fire 3 times before you run away, you're okay. I'm being quite honest.
I know.
The doctrine.
It's just the wording of it that made me chuckle.
They didn't put it that way, but I'm paraphrasing. But if it was right now, they would say, listen, if you fire 3 times, it's cool. You could run away a little bit for a while.
One of the things that Timothy actually did, interestingly enough, he went back to Waco after the siege, right? And he sold ATF hats, and he sold like the bulletproof vests and some cut off of the wounded officer shirts. Like when they cut you off during their medical service.
Yeah.
So what they would call in a war movie ghoulishness.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he was selling them to people. He was picking them up and going to what is it? The National Rifle Association, NRA.
Now the National Rifle Association is object of some controversy.
Yeah, but he was going to their meetups, right? Where people were selling merchandise for like NRA and different like bullet manufacturers. He set up a stall and he started selling ATF stuff. People went over and they thought that they had blood and bullet holes in them.
He may have faked that stuff because the federal government's going to get its evidence, but like that's sensationalistic, like some kind of radical thing, like shark attack hat with like a bite taken out of the brim.
Yeah.
We know he was crazy, and we also know, like as you said, we didn't really make enough of it, but he couldn't hold down the most menial of jobs. He was not outside of the army. He was irresponsible, and we could speculate that he made sergeant, which means like he was making okay money for the time. He had a place to live that was a little better than most people if he didn't want to get his own apartment. And he had, a possible future in the army, which had just been in a war. It looked like he was in the right business, and he acts so badly with his financial behavior that they want him out.
Yeah, but one of the things that
after the great things he pulled off in combat, they wanted him out. Trustworthiness means war. They'll find someone else who can shoot just as good as Sergeant McVeigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Miss Martin. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hey, Teresa.
What are you again?
Morning.
Hold on, you were saying, Bubba?
I was saying that I'd like to see what some of his psyche valves on the website look like.
Oh,
I imagine a lot of people might have wondered about that.
But one of the things that they were at what
they
came out
might
after
not be
this,
private anymore.
Looking at like football players and veterans and boxers, right? Is one of the things that a lot of people believed happened to him during the war is he was hit in the head. If you're hit over your right eyebrow, halfway down, right? Between your temple and your right eyebrow on your forehead. If you get brain damage right there, your personality will change, which is one of the historical explanations about what happened with Henry VIII, because he was hit there and went into a coma.
Wait, you mean if I hit myself there, I can reboot my personality and maybe I won't be a horrible person? Hang on a minute, guys.
You'll be cruel. It's the opposite. You'll wake up and you'll be cruel and that.
What if you're cruel already?
No change then.
I'm sorry. Damn it! So I just hit myself for nothing.
So, you should have recorded it. Could have made a short out of it. So, one of the theories about what happened to him was that he got brain damage from it. Was he was hitting the personality zone of his brain. and a lot of people were leaning towards this because after his execution and that, like in the 2000s and everything, a lot of work went into it. They found one of the documentaries they called Henry VIII, the Flower Prince, about how kind, how justice he was. After he got hit in the head, he was a cruel tyrant. That's when the Henry VIII we knew was born. After that jousting accident. So it's very instant. Like, Farb, did you ever see anyone like get hit on the head and then become a bastard?
No, because most of the people I saw getting the head didn't live through it.
Yeah, true. You were in the heavier groups of things.
Well, just depending on some of the shit that I grew up around.
Yeah.
One of my friends was drunk. One of my friends got drunk and fell down and hit his head, and for like a couple weeks after that, he was markedly smarter.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he got smarter for a little while.
I can become intelligent.
I don't recommend. We don't give medical advice, but yeah, that did happen.
Hit yourself in the head, become more intelligent.
So
you get hit in the head, you either become crazy or a genius.
You really don't want to try it.
No.
I get hit in the head and I become French.
See, potato rapping is the perfect. I think I got hit in the head too. Right.
I was
just saying, hit in the head. Oh no, that never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking at the New York Times article where they tried to assess his personality.
Would you like to read some out?
I'm just getting some facts here. He once refused to stay at a flop house because he couldn't get the Spice Channel. He went to a different one.
Jesus.
And he watched the movie Red Dawn over 300 times. He kept the videotape with him, and his favorite quote that he had on a T-shirt was, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants," which is something Thomas Jefferson said in a much more extreme time in our history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it like a lot of
it also seems to imply that he had OCD, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Lovely.
Yeah.
It would explain how he was able to create the bomb.
Yeah, maybe.
Although it was not that intricate. It was more clever than intricate.
You want to talk about the bomb?
Okay, so McVeigh in his drifting ends up dating one of his buddies from basic training's sister, right? The guy's name is Terry Nichols. Terry Nichols will die in prison. He's never getting out of jail. He was spared the death penalty because he turned evidence on McVeigh. And
so, as they say, just for people who tend to lean more into the true crime stuff, he turned state's witness,
which was only good enough to keep him from being executed. Because the thing we have to remember here is that. Thank you. The thing we have to remember here is that there were 168 casualties as a result of this bomb.
Yeah.
The building was the building was perfectly designed for a sneak attack by a bomb. I don't know if he had the architectural competence to assess the building. Yeah, this guy's sister was in Playboy.
Jesus.
That was a really tasteless thing that Playboy did. But I guess Google it. The thing is, McVeigh's dating this guy's sister. He's kind of getting like day work around, like living I think he's living in his car or maybe even like a small camper. He's not doing too good. And life just went off the rails seemingly at that craps game with the financial responsibility. We could speculate that he just got drunk and wrote that letter to the government when he realized he wasn't going to be in the army anymore anyway. That was probably after listen, you already were all you could be. That's going to be it. But, go out there and enjoy the 90s. And he just couldn't do it, when everyone else was listening to, Nirvana. This guy and Foo Fighters, this guy was just nursing a grudge and reading the Turner Diaries, which was the analog version of getting radicalized on the internet. And the bomb, I've been told, is similar to the one described in there. And his plot is similar to the plot of the book.
clearly went crazy after.
Nobody's saying to forgive anybody.
We're not giving anyone forgiveness.
It's more of an assertion of what put him in the position.
Here's the thing. If you ever saw the Alfred P. Murrah Building, there's a way you could have driven up the steps, and then above the steps, there's an overhang about 8 stories up, I suppose. It's fairly far. The thing is that McVeigh made a very powerful weapon, and when he set it off, and I believe it was a truck filled with barrels of fertilizer and diesel fuel mixed together to make an explosive, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, which with enough determination and a few other things. You need a few other things too.
Classified as a weapon of mass destruction.
What Timothy McVeigh says he didn't intend was he parked it underneath the daycare center for the people's children. He got a lot of the people who were killed were under the age of 10 years old, and that's why most Americans had a deep and abiding I'll use the word hatred for Timothy McVeigh, and all Americans who were Irish as myself were humiliated by him, and we were all rooting for him to get what we call the needle of justice.
Yeah.
But he made a very effective bomb, and during the bomb making, that took a few weeks to accumulate. He didn't have a lot of money, even though gas was cheaper then. He was accumulating, I believe it was diesel fuel. He's accumulating the fertilizer. He's trying not to raise too much suspicion. What's helping is he doesn't have a lot of money. So he's not buying a lot of it at a time.
There was fertilizer, diesel fuel, and other chemicals. It didn't
what's not get much more specific than that? Like, you can find this out with a simple Google search.
This might be helpful. This is the building.
Yeah. So he just pulled up out front there, right?
Yeah.
He pulled up onto the he was on the steps, that overhang. Not the parking garage. I believe the first overhang we see goes down to an underground parking garage that he couldn't get into because there would have been security there. Or it's maybe another structure unrelated to the Murrah Building. But I don't think we're even seeing the overhang as extreme as it was from other angles. This is minimizing to it. But I think he parked the truck maybe on the steps.
Yeah. Hey, Jet Sparks, drop your link in the stream.
And the mechanism by which he did it was a simple fuse. And he used a road flare, I think, to light it. And I think he miscalculated the time it was going to go off by a good 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. Okay.
But he had accomplices in the act of making the bomb. And a few of them got 30 years, and Terry Nichols got life. They were going to execute Nichols as well.
Well, they should have done, in my opinion.
Well,
he was an accomplice to the. You know what? McVeigh was going to cause a long and painful trial, and really put our nation through a lot of pain. It was worth it to put. And life in federal prison is miserable in the United States. Trust me. He's not. Club fed, as they call it, is not someplace you want to go. He's never getting out. He deserves to. I hope he lives a very long life there, to be honest with you, so that he can be bored and think about what he did. But yeah, most Americans, people were lined up to volunteer to do this one.
Yeah.
When we finish off the story, I will tell you why Terry Nichols needs to be gone. He has caused my state far more issues than just
of course.
North Dakota?
Oklahoma.
Sorry. Yeah, McVeigh's all over the place.
So, one of the things that McVeigh was hoping...
Prison here.
One of the things that McVeigh was actually hoping is that this would start between 1 and 3 wars. Like, this is what the fucker done.
Yeah. He made a very effective bomb, and he didn't have the internet.
No. Like, there's
Americans
the opposite side.
On TV were absolutely. Yeah, you can see where the building radically collapsed. The you can see if you look to the far right side of the building, the way it's recessed in. That may have even gone in a little bit more on the left side, but it was at least that deep. And I believe the truck was parked on the steps and blew straight up. It was not on the sidewalk. And I think they found the beginning of finding him was finding the axle several blocks away. They raised the vehicle identification number off of the axle.
They got the VIN off the axle.
Yeah,
I believe that's the sequence of events.
From what I've read, one testimony is that the axle of the vehicle, someone's like, it was literally launched like a jet engine, like just. It was like the whole thing just went bang. They said it's a miracle it survived, but it did.
It makes sense. It's like a pretty solid piece of iron. It's the most solid piece of the truck. And I can see in the world of fluke physics, when parts of the 9/11 planes did survive the crash, and they found landing gear and stuff like that, then you can make something out of metal that will steel that will survive anything. Iron.
Yes.
This was it's the axle. It was pretty well reinforced. And I don't know where the vehicle identification number on the axle is. I don't customarily steal cars or work on them. But they found it a couple of blocks away, and they knew the United States FBI, say what you will about them now. At that point, they're effective at investigating. They were able to have a relatively good outside idea of who they were looking for fairly quickly, like the middle of the next day.
Yeah. Like someone once in my country, they turned around and they said, when something bad goes wrong, as sad as it is, for them to learn, they need more bad things to go wrong.
It's a sad but possibly true thing. What's interesting is I believe McVeigh, he's the only person we've ever seen who looked exactly like the wanted poster of people who saw him.
Oh, God.
Absolutely 100%. I'm sorry.
Man.
Listen, this guy's a monster, and he got what he deserved. He deserved worse, but let's face it. And the first wanted poster was a triangle. He looked like a mosquito. He was a blood-sucking animal. What he did was absolutely horrible, but I think, did he do something as insane as having his own homemade license plates, or was it his own homemade driver's license that had the police decide that they weren't going to listen to this crazy guy with the propaganda?
He didn't have any license plates on the car.
Because he didn't believe in giving. Yeah, he was that ideological in affecting his escape.
Nowadays,
he
we would have called
him his defiance.
We would have called him nowadays a sovereign citizen.
The thing is that shows a level of incompetence after someone who made a bomb that we just saw that was that effective. So your talk of possible brain damage or possible personality problems. McVeigh and the New York Times speculating that he may in 1995, by the way, that he may have had some sort of OCD and a lack of empathy. There was a lot going on behind the eyes of Mr. McVeigh.
Yeah,
who does not reflect well on Irish Americans. We have a lot of other really cool Irish Americans.
Oh, hold on. I found
it.
So they found him 72 hours later, right?
Yes.
In jail.
Yeah, this is when they got him. So
no, he got arrested 72 hours later. It took about another 18 hours for them with the tech. If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
because he makes a fairly clean escape, because one thing he has going for him that people hadn't thought of is, as he's walking away more or less calmly enough, he's basically doing what authorities want. He's calmly leaving the area. They are rushing in to try to help anyone who's hurt. They had not started to process or look for the person who did this. And they're thinking, like, did the Russians fire like a missile at us or something? Like, what the hell happened? This explosion was extremely powerful. Sorry.
That's one of the statements that someone I was listening to one of the workers who survived, and she turned around and she was 100% convinced that they had started war. She said, like, if you look at the world that they lived in at the time, they had the Gulf War just end. They also had the USSR fail. They were still scared of what was going to happen with the Russian Federation, right? They had all these new countries pop up. They were like, people were living on edge, and she said that it sounded like there was like war starting. And one person, one lady, God love the poor woman who survived, she said that she was helping a woman run down the stairs for a different reason. Like, she was just helping her go down the stairs. When the bomb went off, she turned around. She said she woke up holding a hand. That's all that was left of her.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
A lot of people that were found alive, some of them had to be amputated without any anesthesia or any numbing.
Yeah, no anesthesia.
Terrible. Yeah.
Right. What we Americans were faced with was one of the most horrific crime scenes ever. Even though it was not on the same scale, we saw more horror than we actually witnessed on 9/11, because on 9/11 we just saw a massive structural. I mean, we saw a great deal of horror, but Oklahoma City, the building was just open-faced, as you saw. And we saw the rescuers, and like, we were seeing them trying to free people. We were seeing them bring people out. It was a horrible thing to behold on TV. And the woman who said that she thought a war had started, while Saddam Hussein's name was bandied about early on, and you can believe that they were starting to target some very serious weaponry on the Iranians and the Iraqis at the moment this happened, and probably are thinking about other people as well. But definitely the Iranians and the Iraqis are getting major weaponry focused on them at this point. And we didn't think that was the thing about this act. No one ever thought an American would do this, let alone a former American soldier. It was a despicable act. And, he says he wasn't going after the children, but I don't know. He was capable of it.
Where that bomb was placed was underneath the nursery. No, that was after the children. Like, no
he
matter
may or may not have known where the nursery was.
After he said he didn't know that was there, but he did recon on the building and knew that was there.
Bubba, what did you say? Pull the mic closer to you.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying the same thing.
Okay.
I was just saying that I just assumed after he got caught, he was trying to get.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
But so with 10 minutes left, Bubba, you wanted to say something?
First off, his last words, Timothy McVeigh's official last words when he was put to death, were, "Look, America, they're killing me." The man still thought he was in the right. He was a special kind of evil.
Which Americans said, "Go, Uncle Sam."
Yeah.
But that's as far as Terry Nichols goes, that man is almost as evil, and he's still rotting in prison now. True enough, but he has sued the Department of Corrections in the state of Oklahoma, even though he is serving a federal sentence. It is still being served in an Oklahoma prison, and he has been either at the center of or a part of several lawsuits that have cost the taxpayers, millions of dollars over the years. And that seems like a trivial problem, but that is a slap in the face to every victim and every family member of every victim that died. Every day that he lives, every day that he continues to cause even the most mundane inconvenience to this state is a slap in the face to everyone who he helped kill.
Yeah. Like, and let's show where this fucker ended up. Right? I'm not showing religious pictures, by the way. I'm just showing the room. I thought I uploaded. Give me 1 second to talk amongst yourselves. Yeah, StreamYard is very finicky. This has
been really bad all day. This is where, by the way, I want to say on 9/11, the one thing that went through my mind after while I was processing it was at least that piece of shit McVeigh didn't live to see it, because I think he was executed like August 10th.
Oof.
Yeah, just not long
this
before.
He would have been very happy about it.
Probably.
Yeah. This is the bed that he was executed on. The thing is, and now this is the weird thing, they had more comfortable execution beds.
Yeah, sure.
Right? But the thing is,
why should he get it?
Exactly.
Yeah, they made sure that the board he could be carried out on, because they said that the kind of people who were kind of supporting him were not in the right frame of mind. So the reason why it looks like this, if you notice all the handles, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could get him out of there and into a coffin as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Like, so
they also didn't want someone trying to hijack his remains or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
The problem with Timothy McVeigh was he was such an extremist and so dangerous, and was still making insane statements from jail. And he was maybe the first person Americans ever saw taken out of a courthouse with a bulletproof vest on. He might have been the first person, because they were just like, people hated Timothy McVeigh. He was the most hated person in America for a very long time.
Mm.
Like the Unabomber doesn't get the kind of hate. The Unabomber's like at least kind of fascinating.
But one of the and they're still talking about Caligula. So one of the things that a load of people were talking about was they don't know is this true or not. So they said that when the execution truck goes out, it's a hearse truck. Unmarked, but it's still a hearse truck. The truck that they used for him was one that could disappear into the Oklahoma traffic.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. It was not a hearse truck. It was a converted truck. And they got him out of there as fast as possible and buried as fast as possible. Not many people are aware, and it has not been publicized, where he's buried.
Because people probably would have dug it up.
Of course. His official thing was he was executed. He was convicted of first-degree murder of a federal employee, 18 USC, and 114 and 115, 8 counts, using a weapon of mass destruction, conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction. Sorry, I'm just saying, if you use a weapon, why do you get charged with conspiracy? Because there is no conspiracy. There's an actual fact.
Well, it's the fact that as long as he did setting it up is where the conspiracy comes in.
You know what it is? They wanted to make it is a crime to conspire to kill people.
You also got to consider he had accomplices, so this took time and effort,
right?
And there was absolutely a conspiracy among those involved.
So
there was 3 or 4 other people helped him make that bomb. They just they bailed out on the going through with it. They helped him make the bomb, though. Mm-hmm. I think he may have had to finish it himself, but we could say he was up to that task. Unfortunately, it didn't go off on him while he was finishing it.
So here's the thing: they believe one of his conspirators, or the people helping him, was held behind for some reason, because as he left, the bomb was a 2-person bomb, right? They found a leg of someone who didn't, out of all the numbers, right? They found one extra leg. And they believe that, hello, the Padawannabe.
Yes, that means I'm drinking.
Well, Padawannabe, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat.
Yeah.
I was drinking before we started.
You know what? It's entirely possible that he killed one of his co-conspirators in an argument, and they're in the back of the truck.
Or the fucking dude just didn't make it out, or who fucking knows.
None of these people were extraordinarily
smart. I think gun-obsessed McVeigh, when the other people told him he wasn't going to get to play his reindeer games, held this guy at bay. If the bomb was designed for 2, he would have just simply kidnapped one of his co-conspirators. If someone was truly missing, I'm saying Timothy McVeigh, look at what he did. Truly ruthless man, driven. The bomb making process took more than a few days. This was not an episode of Breaking Bad where they drove the RV out in the desert. This was a long process.
Yeah.
They even did test bombs too.
He wanted to do what he wanted to do. He picked the Murrah Building because of its unique design. And the American people were united in the idea that they loved the idea of executing this man for what he did. And by the way, his extremist beliefs, they go beyond politics. There's no classifying them. This man was an insane extremist.
Yeah. So with 5 minutes and the size of the panel, I'm going to start shilling now and just wrap it up because it's nearly 4 in the morning.
You probably need to get some focus.
But before we do that, Admiral, without saying their name, thanks to the YouTube overlords, just say nationalists. Would you like to tell your story that I told in the pre-game chat?
Sure. So my friend's father was a nationalist of a country that Potato is a resident of. And he and I were together doing some stuff the day that happened. And he just he moved to America. He was from Dublin. He's a Dublin supremacist, so to speak. But
there we go.
He thought everyone should just move to Dublin. I'm like, why'd you leave? But at any rate, he said to me, in all seriousness, he goes, when I saw that bomb and the effectiveness of it, I'll tell you this: when they catch that guy, he's going to be Irish. And later on that afternoon, they announced that they had arrested him. They had put 2 and 2 together and figured out who he was. One of the problems with Timothy McVeigh was he had no identification.
Yeah. So
he didn't have a driver's license, nothing.
Yeah, he's one of the early sovereign citizens.
Right. So he was an extremist in that idea.
To be fair, a lot of Americans have Irish blood.
Yes, that's entirely true.
I've heard 51%.
Yeah.
And looking at my family tree, I'm quite convinced that 42% are related to me.
No.
No, literally, it turns out someone I was streaming with is related to me.
I think 4 of our last 8 presidents have been part or completely Irish going. But if we go back to Kennedy, I think we've got a few guys I think Clinton is Irish. Biden.
I heard an Irish lady once say that if all the children of Ireland were to return, the Isle would sink.
You know what's funny is half Irish President Barack Obama. His mother's last name was Kelly.
I claim none of them.
These are just things that exist. They belong to history. I endorse no political party. I'm just a true crime and Star Trek pundit.
But one of the funny things was, just saying, is that when Joe Biden came to Ireland recently, he turned around and he said, "I'm home." Is that the Irish security forces who were protecting him just turned and looked and started laughing?
There's one Irish name I have never heard before. Joseph Robinette Biden. Just does not. That sounds to me quintessentially. I guess someone switched sides. You could have people who are Irish with British last names. I know a couple.
Yeah. But guys,
because his Irish heritage is his mother's maiden name.
But guys, I'm going to start shilling. So, Jacob, as our guest, you're welcome back anytime you want. But as the newcomer, would you like to shill your own channel?
Yeah. My channel's name is Jacob Ironside, and I go over old classic movies, and I have a show on Saturdays that's just a pop culture talk show. Tomorrow I'll be talking about Alfred Hitchcock, and Tuesday night I'm gonna be talking about the movie In the Heat of the Night.
Nice one.
I remember that movie.
So, Far, if you want to show?
Yeah. I got a channel called Fravithian Guard. It's a gaming channel. My brother and I do occasionally do discussion stuff, but it's usually gaming related. I also have a book called the Forvithia Chronicle, which is why my channel's named the way it is. It's a fantasy novel. It's the one of probably 3 in the series because the second one's
that's a number
done.
I can't say.
I know. I wasn't going to give you shit about it. I'm not the person to do that. Who's next?
Yeah. Teague.
Hi, my name's Admiral Teague. I do Yellowstone live watches on Thursday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because we're trying to do things outside of Star Trek and science fiction. My link is in the chat. Please join me, and also I'm going to put in a link. My father was a U.S. Army veteran. If you want to help people who maybe Timothy McVeigh, if he sought help, could have been helped. Disabled American Veterans, the top-ranked charity. Check it out yourselves before you give it money. But if you'd like to help a disabled American soldier, that will help. I've had 2 or 3 veterans validate that for me. But do your own diligence, people. Thank you.
Here is Farv's channel.
Appreciate it.
Give me 1 second. Farv, congratulations. Your link is working on your channel.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I was the one who told you it wasn't last time. And guys, there's the link to Farv's book. Jacob, I'm going to get your channel now, if that's okay with you.
Yep. Thank you.
Phil, you want to shield yourself?
Yeah, I'm Phil Timothy.
Phil, before we go, because you said that you're studying psychology, what would you make of him, of Timothy McVeigh?
Oof.
I mean, he's definitely an interesting character. I gotta look him up more too, because like he's definitely an interesting character. And I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah,
of course not.
But okay, but you want to continue shielding yourself, and I'll grab your channel.
Yeah. So I'm Phil Timothy. I'm Phil the Keyblade Master on YouTube. Check me out. Post like random nerdy videos and gaming streams.
His honestly, his as I like to call him, Captain Hot Dog, but he calls him Seamus the Hot Dog.
I even have Ewok Hot Dog cosplay too. Oh,
yes,
thank you.
There's the link to his channel. Nope, that's me. There he is. There's Jacob's channel. And there is Phil's channel. Hey Phil, you realize that you can get your own URL? We all have.
Yeah, I gotta look into that. I'm really lazy in looking that up. I gotta do that.
Oh, Bubba.
Is he there?
You know, we did.
Sorry, having some technical difficulties here.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, Geek Hero Bubba here. I'm just, that's where you're gonna find me. That's how you're gonna find me. I am all up and down X now, formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, I've been busy with real life stuff this whole week. But if you want to see me lay the metaphorical smackdown on people who are way too left or way too right for their own good, that's where you'll find me.
Yes. I would like to thank each and every single person. And as we do, is now a little tradition and things like that I do. These are all the victims. These are every single person who died.
Oof.
As fun as true crime is, I say this at the end of every stream, there's victims. And this is them.
Yeah.
So, guys, have a good night. Yes, they're still called tweets. So, everyone, have a good night. God bless. And remember, if you're going to end up on a true crime podcast, please make sure it involves the words dildo and a chicken. Good night.
There you go.